The hospital corridors were unnervingly quiet that Tuesday night, except for the low hum of ventilators and the rhythmic beeping of monitors that cut through the stillness like a pulse in the dark. Just before 2 a.m., a nurse on rotation turned the corner of the geriatric wing and froze. Room 317's door was slightly ajar, its overhead light flickering. That door, she knew, was always kept shut. Inside, the faint shadow of someone lingered by the bed of 84-year-old Walter Hughes, a man who was supposed to be fast asleep under the careful watch of hospital security cameras. But when she stepped closer, the figure disappeared into the hallway, leaving only the sterile smell of antiseptic and an IV line dripping slower than it should. Moments later, Walter was unresponsive. Walter Hughes wasn't just another patient on a long list of elderly admissions. In the quiet suburban community of Maple Springs, he was known as the retired accountant, who'd kept mostly to himself after his wife died. No family, no visitors, no trouble. Yet, on that cold January night, something happened in room 317 that would unravel a scandal that no one, especially the hospital administration, was prepared for. The ER buzzed to life minutes after the code blue was called. Nurses rushed in, crash cart wheels squealing, gloves snapping, adrenaline cutting through fatigue. But by the time they stabilized Walter, his heart rate had crashed once more, leaving more questions than answers. Security footage from the wing showed nothing. No one in or out of the room. A ghostly gap of 5 minutes. 5 minutes during which something went very wrong. The next morning, hospital staff gathered in the break room, whispering. Walter's case wasn't just strange, it was unsettling. There were no signs of forced entry, no clear medical explanation for his sudden collapse, and worst of all, no one to claim responsibility. But the strangest part wasn't that Walter survived, it was what he whispered when he briefly regained consciousness. She told me not to tell anyone. No one knew who she was. Walter didn't have family, no female visitors, no caregivers beyond the nurses on duty. Detective Claire Donnelly had worked plenty of suspicious hospital cases before, but something about Maple Springs Community Hospital made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. The reports didn't add up. The IV bags were swapped out, but not logged. The nurse on duty that night claimed she'd heard footsteps, but saw no one. The security feed had a glitch right at the time of the incident, a perfectly timed blackout that lasted just long enough to cover whoever entered that room. And then an unexpected twist. During a routine toxicology screen, the lab found traces of a sedative in Walter's system, one not prescribed to him, a controlled substance used in surgical settings, tightly logged, requiring signatures. Someone had access, someone who knew the hospital inside and out. Walter had always been considered a low-risk patient, no underlying issues except age. Yet in the days that followed, strange things began happening in the wing. Another patient's monitor went dark at 3:12 a.m., a chart disappeared from the nurse's station, and one nurse reported seeing a woman in a pale blue uniform walking down the hallway when no female staff were scheduled in that wing at the time. Then came the most chilling moment of all. Walter began to speak more during short bursts of lucidity. He kept repeating one phrase, "She comes at night, every night." The staff initially brushed it off as confusion, common in elderly patients, but Claire didn't. His words weren't random, they were consistent, and his fear was real. Every time the lights dimmed, Walter's breathing would quicken, his eyes fixed on the hallway, as if waiting for someone or something to return. The deeper Claire dug, the more the hospital's history began to unravel. A decade earlier, this same wing had quietly settled a malpractice lawsuit involving unexplained sedations of elderly patients. It was swept under the rug, buried under confidentiality agreements and administrative promotions. Most of the original staff were gone, except for one night nurse who'd never spoken publicly about it. Claire visited her, Nancy Whitaker, retired now, living alone on the edge of town. Nancy's hands trembled as she poured tea, her eyes distant. "We called her the night visitor," Nancy whispered. Back then, patients would slip away quietly in their sleep. At least that's what they told the families. But I saw her once, a nurse that wasn't on any payroll. She wore the old blue scrubs, silent. She'd stand by their beds, and when she left, they wouldn't wake up. At first, Claire suspected Nancy's account was influenced by age and memory. But when she cross-referenced old incident reports with Nancy's years of service, there was an undeniable pattern: 15 elderly patients, all with similar cardiac arrests in the early hours of the morning, all in the same wing, and every single one had missing or tampered with medication logs. Walter's condition stabilized briefly, long enough for Claire to request a 24-hour security watch. But on the third night, despite cameras and guards, something chilling happened. Walter's monitor room suddenly cut out at 2:57 a.m. Power in the wing flickered. When security rushed in, Walter was gasping, a figure slipping out the side door of the service hallway. This time, a nurse caught a glimpse, a woman's silhouette, moving fast, vanishing into a restricted maintenance stairwell. Forensic teams moved in the next morning. In a utility closet near that stairwell, they found what no one expected: an old set of scrubs, pale blue, folded neatly with an outdated hospital badge still clipped to the chest. The badge belonged to a nurse who died nearly a decade ago under suspicious circumstances. A woman who had once been accused of falsifying patient records. Her name was Evelyn Moore. But Evelyn was dead, at least officially. The investigation widened fast. Claire and her team unearthed an identity theft trail stretching back years. Someone had been using Evelyn's credentials to access restricted parts of the hospital. Someone who knew how to bypass the new security systems. The suspect wasn't a ghost. She was real, and she'd been walking among the staff unnoticed. When Walter finally died a week later, it wasn't from his heart condition. Toxicology revealed a fatal dose of the same sedative found earlier. A nurse named Tara Finch, beloved by patients and praised by her supervisors, was arrested that same night after evidence tied her to forged inventory logs and security overrides. She had a spotless record on paper, but financial digging revealed massive gambling debts and quiet payoffs over the years. Tara confessed partially at first, claiming she only wanted to ease their suffering. But Claire wasn't buying it. She'd seen too many cases dressed up in mercy that were really about power, money, and control. Tara had been diverting medication, falsifying logs, and eliminating elderly patients to cover her thefts. Walter wasn't the first. He was just the one who survived long enough to whisper a warning. When the trial began, Maple Springs was shattered. The hospital faced federal investigations, its board forced to resign. Families came forward one by one, realizing their loved ones' peaceful passings weren't so peaceful after all. Tara's cold demeanor in court only deepened the wound. She had worked there for 12 years. No one had ever suspected a thing. The story of Walter Hughes and the night shift secret became one of the most disturbing elder abuse cases in recent U.S. history. It exposed systemic failures in hospital oversight, the ease with which medical records could be manipulated, and how one person's greed can turn places of healing into hunting grounds. This wasn't about monsters hiding in the dark. It was about a predator hiding in plain sight, a trusted nurse, a smiling face at the bedside, and a hospital system that didn't want to see what was right in front of them. Tara Finch is now serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, but room 317 at Maple Springs Community Hospital remains closed. a silent reminder of what happens when trust is weaponized. If this story shook you, don't just scroll away. Real cases like this happen every year in hospitals across the U.S., and many go unnoticed. Hit subscribe for more true crime stories, share to raise awareness, and turn on notifications so you never miss the truth behind the quietest crimes. Because sometimes the most chilling crimes don't happen in the streets, they happen in plain sight.